Hi, I'm Milena. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to my end of year TBR. I've not been doing a whole lot of TBRs this year. I do have a few stacks here that are books for readathon, books for book clubs, and a lot of non-fiction that I would like to get to this year. This end of year TBR is not at all about the goals I set earlier this year, but really about the mood that I'm in right now and all the books that call to me, whether I just purchased them or whether they were on my shelf. It's mid-October right now and I want to start with the books that I still want to read this month. I did do a Victober TBR and I'm reading most of those books right now. A book that I've not started yet, Black Beauty by Anna Sewell, which I still want to get to, and this book I will probably take into November, which is our book club pick for the Thomas Hardy read along, and that is The Return of the Native. If you want to learn a little bit more about these books, I would recommend watching my Victober TBR. I have two classics by two of my favorite authors that I have not read from this year. I read some Toni Morrison? I don't think so. I have a Virginia Woolf and a Toni Morrison next up. I need to read them this year at least. The Virginia Woolf I want to read is Between the Eggs. So this is Virginia Woolf's last work and she didn't get to edit it. Her husband edited for her in the belief that she didn't really want to change a whole lot about it. So this is set in June 1939 and the inhabitants of a country house prepare to host the annual village pageant in its grounds. It tells the story of English history as it does every year. Yet the coming of war broods over the whole community, changing the meaning of past and present. Virginia Woolf's playful final novel both celebrates and mocks Englishness. And recreates the elusive role of the artist. This sounds amazing and kind of different from other things that I've read from Virginia Woolf. While art is a part of her writing, especially in Jacob's Room and Into the Lighthouse, I don't think she ever has taken an art form as the lead of a plot. And I do believe this work is well liked. This is not the final works of Virginia Woolf I've not read yet. I also haven't read her shorter work of fiction called Flush, and Night and Day is one of her earliest novels that isn't very popular anymore. I haven't read that one either yet. One is next on the TBR. When it comes to Toni Morrison, I've read most of her really well beloved books, and the only one that has often a high rating that I've not read yet is Jazz. I think there's a reason I have not gravitated towards this one, because it's about an older man falling for a young girl and a very toxic romantic relationship between them. I think it's also about music and about dance. It also has femicide and a lot of very difficult topic, which I'm used to from Toni Morrison. This seems like a very rage-inducing feminist novel, which of course I really want to read. I know a lot of people find this one of her best works, just haven't gotten to it yet. I have noticed this year that I am so distracted by life that I don't gravitate towards these novels that I know are going to do so much for me, because they are by my favorite authors, and not necessarily authors whose work I really enjoy, but authors who I know I have a certain connection with on a deeper level, with their writing, with their art. And I always want to be, I think, the best version of myself intellectually when I read their works. So, and I haven't felt like I've been that this year. Right now I'm taking a week off from work, from the shop. Already feel a little bit more space and energy towards that. I think the first year of owning a business is incredibly taxing for anyone. So it makes sense that I don't feel that there's a lot of space for other parts of maybe my working life. I do sometimes view reading as my working life, but more as an intellectual part of my working life. For me, there's definitely a difference between fantasy and romance books that I just devour, love and enjoy, and reading classics and literary fiction, because I read it with a very different purpose. And I think if you go into classics and literary fiction pure for enjoyment, I don't think I could personally do that, because it's quite a lot of work for me to read them. And to me, I see it partly as work, as an intellectual journey that I'm on. I think these books are going to mean a lot for me. I have quite ambitious reading plans for November because I'm in a really big non-fiction mood. There's going to be a readathon called Non-Fiction November that is hosted every year by Book Olive. I will leave their announcement video if it's already up by the time I'm filming this. Otherwise, I will just leave a link to their channel in the description and you can join it as well. I love Non-Fiction November and I feel like non-fiction may have a bit of a bad reputation within the bookish world, well, it definitely doesn't deserve that, because right here I have a combination of books that are very challenging and books that I think are just going to be entertaining whilst also discussing difficult subjects. So right here I have a nice stack. One of these is for a book club, the other ones are for me. The first one is, I think it's a Belgian book. I got it as a review copy and I of course shared it on Instagram, but I haven't read it yet. And it says Shakespeare kent me beter dan mijn lief, which means Shakespeare knows me better than my lover. Mijn lief is a bit more romantic and softer than lover. It's definitely something that you would say in Flemish more than in Dutch. Shakespeare, J.D. Salinger, Jane Austen, George Eliot. I see a chapter on Middlemarch. I think this is going to be really entertaining. And this is definitely the kind of book that if I think it's really, really good, I could add it to the shop, because that's something I want to do with Milena's Bookshop. In a new year, I really want to extend the non-fiction collection, which I think is probably the reason why I am trying to motivate myself to read a lot of non-fiction as well. I have a lot of non-fiction on chronic illness too, but this is a non-fiction on literature. Rude. More non-fiction on literature and the publishing world is a book that we're going to read for the Whimsical Readers Book Club. This is my pick. Of course I picked a non-fiction, and that is for November and December. The other book we're going to read I also have here that we're going to read this month. So that is Uproar by Alice Luxton. This is about satire in journalism, and we follow a man called Thomas Rowlandson, and he lived in London in 1772, and I think he caused a lot of uproar about satirism. And you can see of course the illustrations, which I find so fascinating. I've seen a lot of good reviews of this book everywhere. Everyone I know who has read this has loved this. I think it could make for such an interesting discussion with the Whimsical Readers Book Club. If you're interested in this book, I would love it if you would join us and share your opinions during the live show, because we're all from different countries, which I think will add a lot when we're reading this, because different countries have different histories with these kind of subjects. This is set, it's London, so this is from a UK perspective. On the back it says, set against a backdrop of royal madness, political intrigue, the birth of modern celebrity, French Revolution, American independence, and the Napoleonic Wars, which I find such a hard word to say. Uproar follows the artists as they lampoon those in power, from the Prince Regent to Georgiana, Duchess of Devonshire. Their prints and illustrations deconstruct the political and social landscape with surreal and razor-sharp wit. I am so excited for this one, and this will be the first non-fiction we read for the book club as well. Let's see. Okay, this is more of a classic piece by Joan Didion, who I've read a few essays from and was really impressed by their writing style. This is The Year of Magical Thinking, which I don't even know if you can see this cover. I'm not in love with this cover, but this was like the best quality edition I could find. I'm sorry, but who chooses this color palette? I know it's pretty, but the print is, the contrast is too low between the prints. You should have definitely made the purple much lighter. I am not a designer, so I should probably keep my thoughts to myself. Oh, this is actually also about illness, but not about chronic illness. This is about grief, death and illness. The result is a personal yet universal portrait of marriage and life in good times and bad. So this is the book that everyone says kind of breaks them. I don't love reading about grief and death. I find it very uncomfortable, which is all the more reason why I should, I think. And then I have two books on chronic illness. One is another Dutch book. I'm reading Dutch nonfiction. I've not had the best of luck with Dutch fiction this year, so I'm just going to switch to nonfiction and hope that works for me. It's by Annika Mel, and it says, we zijn allemaal wel eens moe, which means, oh gosh, how should I translate this? All of us are tired sometimes. And it's in a way that this is a phrase that a lot of people use when you tell them you have chronic fatigue. It's like, oh, everyone is tired sometimes. Like, it's normal to be tired. Like, why are you complaining? I remember, like, little sidetrack. I remember when I went to my first year of college and one girl asked me like, what is chronic fatigue? Why is it worse? When I go home, I also take a little nap after school. And I didn't understand the nuances and her stupidity yet. And I just answered her seriously. But that is the kind of title that this book has. And it's all about chronic fatigue and ME. And I have to say, I absolutely love this cover. I found this book recommended by, she's a Dutch TikToker, and she has long COVID, which of course has a lot of similarities to ME and to chronic fatigue. It's basically the same thing, but it just has a different name. It says it took her 18 years to get a diagnosis of ME after she was sick as a teen. Oh god, like, this happens way too often. Like, I just hate everything that has to do with my chronic fatigue. I do feel very grateful that from the moment I started having symptoms, they could find something in my blood, and I got my diagnosis just a few months after I started feeling ill. It shouldn't be that makes me lucky, because it was one of the worst periods of my life, but I was lucky. Lately, I've been having so many feelings about chronic fatigue and about ME and about all these new very expensive treatments for long COVID that don't seem to really work. I mean, they work, but then not for a long period of time and not for everyone, which to me says that it's just such an under-researched and underdeveloped treatment, and those treatments are only available for people with long COVID and not people with ME or other debilitating chronic illnesses. And I suppress a lot of these feelings and a lot of anger towards this, because I don't want to live with that every day. I just want to live my life. But lately, when these things are more in the news, it's so much harder to ignore all the anger, frustration and sadness I harbor towards this. So I think that's why I want to read books where I feel seen and included from other people. So this is one book, and I'm also excited to read it in a Dutch setting, because when I read books about ME or chronic fatigue from a setting from the UK or the US, there's such cultural differences that make such a big difference in how people approach you. And Dutch culture is, I mean, I don't like this word, but it's very toxic towards people with a chronic condition, because Dutch culture is very blunt. Dutch culture is, there is not a lot of sympathy for people who don't get along. I know that Europe is known for like its approachable and affordable healthcare, and that is a good thing, but culturally it's a no whining culture, and that is not always a very friendly environment for chronically ill people to exist in. So I'm happy to have a book that also, I mean, I don't know if that's a part of her book, but this person exists in the same culture as I do. That was a really long ramble, but I don't really care. And then this book, when it came out, I was like, am I dreaming? Is this for real? The first time I saw myself on television was when I watched the show as a teen, Miranda, which is a 29 BBC sitcom about a tall brown-haired woman who is very, very clumsy and very silly. And I watched this with my family, and whilst the comedy is sublime, most of their laughs were because they saw me on TV. And they said, oh my gosh, Milena, that you? I was like, yes, I know. And I'd never seen someone who looked like me be the star of a show and be silly and happy. And I just felt an instant connection with Miranda Hart, who plays the main character and who wrote the series. And I have followed her and read her books after the sitcom as well. And now she has published a book on chronic illness, on my chronic illness, like belongs to me, on ME. And I was like, I have identified with this woman for over a decade, and then you're telling me that in the past decade she had had the same struggles I did, and she now wrote a book about it. Sometimes the things just fall into place, because one of the things I miss so much as a relatively, I still call myself young, I'm 30 now, relatively young chronically ill woman, is that I don't really see older women who have a chronic illness that I do and also have a fulfilling, happy life, which is really shitty. I don't have a lot of role models who just like make it whilst also having this chronic illness. So I don't know what this book is going to be about, of course, but I do know that this is a role model for me. So I'm talking about I Haven't Been Entirely Honest With You by Miranda Hart. This is about her journey with Lyme disease, ME, and about everything that she has learned about life and I cannot wait to read this. There's a good chance that by the time I upload this, which I guess is tomorrow, I've already started this. I love the back of this book as well. I mean, she didn't write this book just about chronic illness for other chronically ill people, because she's also a comedian and she's incredibly funny. If you want a lighthearted, really funny sitcom, I think some episodes are on YouTube. Do Miranda Hart 2009 sitcom and you'll find it. And the first episode, there's a scene in the first episode, every time I see it I just break. It's so incredibly funny. When she encounters her crush and she encounters her crush and and they haven't seen each other in a while and she starts telling him the most ridiculous, outrageous lies to impress him, and it's so I need to rewatch it. It's so freaking funny. Okay, yes, so have I showed you all the non-fiction I want to read? I think so. And then for is it September, October? Oh, so it's already a bit late, but I haven't started yet. And it is Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Walters. This is a historical sapphic fiction by a very famous author called Sarah Walters. And this is Mary's Pick. Oh, this is also set in theater, just like the Virginia Woolf book. I have seen clips of the film and I really like that one, but I don't really know a lot about the plot because I know Sarah Walters is very twisty and turny. So I'm just going to experience this book, but we'll have a live show for this one in November, I guess. Okay, before I get to two books I want to read for Christmas, wait, they are in the wrong order, but I have packed books for every month and I think I have read them so far until October, so I thought we could unwrap those together and see what other 3 books are going to be added to my TBR. So let's start with the October one. Which I don't mind actually, unless it's a classic, because I've already some October classics. You want some ASMR? Oh no, it is a classic. Okay, I'm definitely not going to read this though, so it's going back on the shelves. That is Little Women. I might save it for Christmas. Also want to read Good Wives, and this is an edition I've already read. I wanted to reread this year. But I might listen to the audiobook and then also to the second one this Christmas. Okay, well, the first fill. November. Have I been smart and already picked a non-fiction for non-fiction November? Ooh, Ariadne. That is really funny. I was looking for this book. I wanted to read the Jennifer Saints and I picked the other one. Is it Electra? I think so, but this one was wrapped apparently. Okay, so I have Ariadne. This seems like a fun book to read in between non-fiction and classic. And this is December. I must have picked something Christmassy for this, right? Like, why did I do a Greek myth retelling for November? I think I usually like to read those in summer. So I don't think I was very deliberate with these. Oh no, this one I was deliberate with. So this is The Language of Food, which is a historical fiction that I think is going to be really cozy, and it seems like a good book to read around Christmas because I always want to feel more inspired to cook and bake in December because that's such a beautiful part of the holiday season. And I'm sure this will inspire me to do so. 2 blue books to add to my end of year TBR. This is becoming quite a stack. I still have 2.5 months though. Okay, so I have 2 Christmas books for this year. The first one just came in today and that is Krampus, The Yule Lord by Brontë. Last October, I think it was, I read another book by Brontë, which I really enjoyed. Surprisingly, because I read it for a reading challenge in a vlog. I read Slewfoot, which was a great witchy historical fiction, very dark. But I don't know if it became horror a little bit. Mostly it was a very character-based historical fiction. And of course the Yule Lord. This is so disturbing and not like me at all. But if it's his writing again, I'm going to really enjoy it. I'm sorry, it's a bit shiny. I can show you one illustration. Just the one. Okay, chapter 1, Santa Man. So I think this looks cozy, but Brontë is not a cozy author. Oh, you can see how scared Santa is. So I guess it's not cozy at all. Oh, and the back of this book is so disturbing too. Yeah, but I'm really excited for this. Like, I am not someone who likes horror. I like spooky things, but I don't love horror. But I love the historical character-based story. So yeah, I'm really excited for this one. I listened to the audiobook of Slow Food last time, or was it the Kindle edition? At least I did not have the physical copy with all the illustrations. So I'm so pleased that I do have that right now. And then I want to finish the short stories I've not read yet from the Penguin Book of Christmas Stories. Let's see if I have a lot to still read. So it has Hans Christian Andersen, another Scandinavian name, that's way too long. There's Dostoevsky, Chekhov. Oh, I have not read anything of this. Oh, I love that's a lot of, it has all classic authors, but it's not like Dickens, Gaskell. It's a lot of translated works as well. Oh, there's a short story by Shirley Jackson that I've, oh, maybe if it's part of the lottery and I have read it. It's A Visit to the Bank, so it's possible, but I could reread it. Muriel Spark, I love Muriel Spark. Italo Calvino, Santa's Children, I love him as well. Didn't really think his writing style would lend itself to a Christmas story. Tove Jansson, Christmas. Oh, I love that. Okay. And Angela Carter, The Ghost Ships. Okay, this is so much more diverse and unknown than I had previously anticipated, because yes, this was a heavily influenced by BookTube cover buy. I will add it to the shop as well in a few weeks. I have a few editions of these, but I'm very excited to dive in to these short stories, probably read a few every week in December, make my own little advent calendar. So yes, I have a lot of books to read. I'm not going to lift it again because it's a little bit too much. If you've read any of these books, please let me know what you thought of them. I would love to get some inspiration from you. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope that you have a lovely, lovely day or evening. Doei!